Hi everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast here on the Mild Fuzz Podcast Network. Tim.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you want me to say who you are?
No. I'm mixing things up. I'm keeping you on your toes. So,
well, kudos to you. Hello.
hi everyone. I'm Peter.
You threw me off. I usually think I have like a good 2-3 seconds to think of something. I wasn't. You coming at me at a side angle, really.
You know, I never realised how integral that extra 3 seconds was for you to prepare.
Well, I have a background in the art of improv, and that's stuff gets said.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how we're going to top that. I may as well just end the show just now. I mean, who cares about the movie? I'll tell you what I do care about. Resident Evil 7 got announced at E3. No, we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about that. It's what's kind of on my mind, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about...
Technically, it's pronounced Resident Evil.
Don't be silly, Timmy. What we are here to talk about, though, we are here to talk about a sequel. We're here to talk about a sequel to the film that we did last time, and that is The Conjuring. Conjuring 2, specifically. 2. Yes. Conjuring 2, which just got released, and we were pretty pumped to go see it. So we're going to talk about Conjuring 2. We will start spoiler-free, so as to not, spoil things. That's how that works. And we will put up a spoiler wall and tell you where the spoilers are going to start, and you don't have to worry too much. That said, I'm not sure how much we can really devote to the spoiler-free section, given the type of film, but we'll see what we can do. So I guess first things first, Tim.
Yes. I did watch the movie, if that's what you're going to ask.
I assumed that as much, Tim.
Okay.
I'd like to think that I'd never have to double check that with you.
Okay.
After we've started recording, just for future reference.
Oh shit, we're supposed to watch it. I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. I'm just sitting here like 2 hours later. Where is she? Tim,
I really liked it when they conjured that too.
Alright, Tim, did you like The Conjuring 2?
I loved it. I was pretty pleasantly surprised. Like we talked about last week, I liked the first one. I wasn't sure how this one was going to go. I was doing a little bit of research on the real life incident.
There was air quotes there for the audio listeners.
Yeah. And I was like, this doesn't sound as interesting as I've kind of heard its reputation to be. But after the movie, I looked into it a little more. I was like, all right, there's more interesting stuff. But I was just kind of very 50-50 on it. But I ended up having a really good time and enjoyed it quite a bit.
Cool. I would somewhat agree with that. I would say it's better than the first movie. Again, like I said last time, I like the first movie. Probably quite a lot, but I don't love it. I think it's a good movie, great, bordering on great, but not amazing. Whereas this one, I feel is a step towards greatness, if not already at greatness. I guess we'll get into that as we talk about it. But I don't know. I think because this one is a little bit less conventional, whereas the first one is very much your typical big house in America. And this one is set. First of all, it's set in England.
Your backyard.
It's not my backyard, Tim. I'm Scottish, right? Shut up. But it's more specifically set in a really normal council house. Well, I say normal. The inside of this council house in the movie, some of the walls are peeling off. I'm like, no, people don't live like that. That's weird. I don't know exactly what they were, why they decided to dress the wall like that. I don't know, but but from the outside though, it's a really typical semi-detached house that you would get from the council. I think in America you'd call that the projects.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. So it's a much smaller house, right? It's a very typical. You've got a living room, a kitchen, you've got a hall upstairs, and you've got a few bedrooms. That's it. It's not one of these American houses like you usually get in horror movies where there's a lot of rooms. There's maybe a study. There's maybe a dining room. There's an attic. There's a base. Like,
Yeah.
it felt a lot more like a real place to me.
Yeah.
Not that's not to say that I don't believe these houses exist in America. I just mean,
No, right. Yeah.
this one felt like it was from a much more
Is
everyday man perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, definitely. It felt very authentic. That's one of the things I actually really liked about the movie was like the setting and the time period. And I think this is actually something like James Wan is pretty good at, like just kind of making it have like a very specific feel, like for the
It does.
like time it's in.
And it has a very good feel as well. It's set in 1975, 76, and it feels like the 70s. It feels like England. If I have any complaints about the English setting, which is, by the way, it's weird for like a mainstream American movie to be this English focused, and it really is. It does feel English focused. Is that I think there's maybe a couple of times where the dialogue's a bit too stereotypical British,
Biscuit.
whoever wrote. Actually, yeah, the biscuit thing. I need to talk about the biscuit thing, right? And I don't think this should count as spoilers, right? Just one of the kids wants biscuits. Now, if you're an American, you're probably aware of this already, but I'll just to clarify in case anyone doesn't. A biscuit in the UK is a cookie, right?
Yeah.
I could get into a whole spiel about how we have cookies too, but cookies are a very specific thing. But you use cookie for every type of what we would call a biscuit, right?
Right.
And
The smart way to do it.
Shut up. He wants a biscuit. He wants a cookie, and he's like, "Mom, isn't there any biscuits?" Like, and he's good on about it. He wants a goddamn biscuit. And they set up the idea that this family's kind of poor, which again ties into the fact that they're in a council house and they're not well off. She's like got 4 kids and she's whatever, right? But I have to admit that this kid wanting a biscuit this much was really kind of almost took me out of the movie a little bit, just for a second, because I've never seen a kid where getting a cookie is like the be all end all of their existence, where that's all they want.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, even if you're poor, right, I can't buy that you can't afford, because when she finally does get him some biscuits and she puts them on a plate, who puts cookies on a plate? Seriously, it's not a cake. You don't put cookies on a plate. You just eat them out of the packet. But whatever.
Well, I'll argue against you with that. I think it depends on a couple of things. One, how many cookies are you having? If you're having one, just easily hold it and as you eat it. If you're gonna have multiples and you're sharing a bag or a box with your family, I think the plate is the way to go.
Maybe I'm just a firm believer in not creating dishes that are not necessary.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I'm hungry and I go to the kitchen to like see what I can have, the amount of dishes that will be left over for each type of food is a factor in my decision making.
All right, but also you're an only child though. You don't have any brothers or sisters, right?
No, yes, correct.
Because growing up, sometimes you have to you have to share the snacks.
Oh God, no share.
Yeah.
No, don't sharing. Ugh, my God.
Well, I mean, that's what you have to do, especially if you have 3 or 4
Sharing.
brothers or sisters.
That's called living like a peasant. Sharing.
All right, Your Majesty.
Yeah, I'm kidding people. By the way, I am hyping this up for effect.
For humor,
But anyway,
folks.
the reason why I wanted to complain about the biscuits was actually none of what I said already. To be honest, I was just adding color to it all. So she gives him these biscuits, and he's really excited. But you see what the biscuits are on the plate? They are just plain digestives.
Yeah, they didn't look too good.
They're the most basic of basic biscuits you can get. These cost almost nothing. They're practically free, right? But he's so excited about these biscuits. It was so weird. Oh. And again, none of this is a spoiler. It's not even a plot point. It's just it's just the kid's thing. He likes biscuits and he wants biscuits, and the mother gives him biscuits.
Also, if I can bring up something else that was kind of strange about that kid, um, and I don't think this is really that big of a spoiler. If it is, like, you're an idiot if you think it bothers you. But like, they set up real early on that he has a stuttering problem.
Yeah,
But
he's introduced. He's introduced with a stutter, but then it's almost never brought up again.
yeah, like, they make it seem like that's gonna be like a point. Like, at the end of the movie, he's gonna like kill the ghost with his stutter or something. Like, it seemed like, oh, this is like, it's
Yeah.
too important to. But yeah, nothing ever happens with it.
Nah, they set up that he's got a stutter in the first time you ever see him, and then it's almost completely forgotten. I think he like stutters once in one more scene,
Yeah,
and it's never brought up again. So yeah, that was a bit weird. It's almost like there was maybe a deleted subplot or something that
yeah.
maybe get cut out of the movie. That's actually something we should say. This is a long movie for what it is.
Yeah.
This movie's like 2 hours and 15 minutes long. That is long for a movie like this.
You know what? For its credit, though, I don't think there's ever any point where I really felt bored or
No, I mean neither.
felt like it dragged that much. So
Yeah, I should absolutely say that the pacing was perfect. It didn't, it wasn't like I was like, oh my god, this feels so long. It never felt like that. But just when you look at the runtime, it's like, what? This is a horror movie, and it's like 130 something minutes.
One of the things I thought was kind of funny about the kids too is one of your complaints from last week when you're like, kind of had a lot of kids. Maybe they should have had like less. Like,
They had one less.
Yeah,
They had four.
still like 4 kids.
But the thing was though, is I still thought at least one of them didn't need to be there. The older brother, had nothing to do this entire film.
No.
The sister, because there's 2 girls and 2 boys, and the younger girl is the sort of the main one who has the more sort of plot like revolving around her. You have the other sister who felt important enough because she shared a room with her and she like experienced a lot of stuff within it. She felt like more of a character. Then you've got the younger brother who is the one who's like biscuits and but the older brother has like nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing in this movie to do. It is so weird. Again, it feels like, because they do the same thing as the first movie where in the closing credits they show you photos of the real people. So obviously this true story had 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, and they wanted to make sure they were all in there, but as a movie it just feels like
That's unnecessary. Yeah.
he's just there wasting oxygen. But yeah, I feel like we went into some really weird complaints to start this off, and we actually really like the movie, but we're taking these nitpicks right off the bat and going with it. But yeah, like I was saying about some of the English dialogue, most of it felt natural. I'm pretty sure they mostly got like actual English actors. I think with the kids you kind of need to. I think getting like an American kid or whoever to pretend to be English would just be a nightmare.
No, I mean, it's hard enough to get a young kid that can act it well.
Yeah, exactly.
To get one that can do an accent.
Which is what I'll say. I thought certainly both the girls I thought were quite good.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I thought they were quite good actually.
Yeah. Especially the main girl really shined. I thought she was great.
But yeah, all I was saying, there was just a couple of lines here or there where it felt like they were overdoing the Britishisms a little bit, just to,
Yeah.
But otherwise, though, I mean, it felt very authentic what it was. The house felt authentic. Them coming home from school in their school uniforms felt authentic. And I'm glad they didn't... Like, it felt to me, at least... And I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, being someone from another country. It didn't feel like they tried to explain what things were if we had a different word for them. They just sort of let you get it from context.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't really get anything like that. Like, even like, like the biscuit stuff, like, joking around with that a little bit, but like, I know that, like what biscuits are, and
but
I think most people do, but yeah, like in the movie,
even if you didn't,
I don't think there's any confusion.
Yeah, I think you would get it from context, like as soon as, at least certainly the next time you see it. Otherwise, like, why is he asking for biscuits and gravy? This is weird. Why is he obsessed with?
Yeah.
But no, like, so I appreciate that. It feels very authentic in that sense, and it's especially impressive because James Wan is American. The director's an American, so it's nice to see that he. you know, I don't know if he maybe knows British people and that made it easier for him because he just kind of knows a lot of this stuff offhand, or if maybe he just did his research and.
I wondered if we should give a lot of credit to him, or if it's like the production people, or
Well, I think it's a mix of things. Obviously, the writer needs to know.
Well, what I was gonna say is not necessarily just like the British stuff, but I think in general, like everything felt like, even when they were showing like pictures of the house, I was like, oh wow, like they like really went like great lengths, it seemed like, to recreate the house and to like recreate like the fashions and get like actors and stuff that looked like these people. And so I feel like it's not just like the British stuff, but I feel like everything had like
the 70s really, stuff as well. Yeah, it felt.
Yeah, there's like really a lot of attention to detail, and yeah, I don't know if that's like all him, or if it's like just a very dedicated.
I'm sure there's researchers, and I'm sure the production design people and all that put in a lot of effort for that. Because I mean, production design's a kind of an unpraised job. Often you don't often talk about how good production design is.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is when it's set in a different time period where you notice it a lot more, because you're like, oh shit, they had to recreate that time period, so it stands out more.
And the thing is, though, it didn't feel like it was like punching you in the face with it, though. Like, it wasn't like in X-Men Apocalypse when it's like, they go to see Return of the Jedi, and it's just like everything's like, hey, this is the 80s, remember? It's like everything I thought was like more like, subtle, like, there wasn't people going like, oh, hey, did you catch the premiere of Saturday Night Live, or like something like, it wasn't anything like that.
That'd be especially weird since Saturday Night Live never aired in the UK, but it wouldn't even it doesn't bother me when they have references to things, because like when I went to see The Nice Guys a couple of weeks ago,
yeah,
and that's set in the 70s as well, funnily enough, and there's like a billboard for Jaws 2 that they go past at one point, and I like that kind of stuff. I like the little Easter, because for me I was like, oh, that did come out this year, there might be in that. For me, that's authentic now, like, because that, like, they've done their research.
See, I do like little Easter eggs like that, but then when it's like someone that's like walking past it and then like looking up, going like, oh hey, you want to see Jaws 2 like Friday, or like something, like when it's like really like just like blaringly in your face or something.
No, I agree, but I don't think it's always like that. I think right. You can't put it in the dialogue without it feeling,
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's a good one in Mr. Robot season 1 that I really liked, when there's a flashback to the 90s.
Yeah.
And I thought that was done quite well. I don't want to spoil it because it is a complete spoiler, but it can be done well. It can be done well. But yeah,
basically the point I was making though is that like you get that feeling in this without it, like, without people having to shout it out to you, or
that's it, though,
no one ever goes like, oh man, I can't believe it's 76 already, like.
No, but that said, I'm assuming they're mostly musicians. If I knew my musicians from the 70s well, I'd have probably felt that though when I seen the girls' rooms, because they have like all the posters on the walls.
True, yeah.
And I didn't recognise most of them, so
yeah.
Whatever. But no, I mean, we've talked a lot about the setting and I want to talk about characters, actually. Let's talk about some characters. Obviously, we'll get the Warrens, but we'll talk about some of the new characters, because I want to talk about the guy who has the most ridiculous yet epic moustache.
Which again, it was funny because before I watched the movie, I was watching like the actual like interviews that guy did, and they pretty much got him spot on. Like he looked exactly like the real life guy. Yeah,
well, there's a photo of him at the end again, like with the family, and it did look quite similar. But yeah, a really kind of unique, because he had this ridiculous over the top moustache, but then his hair, it was like he was like balding at the top, or it was like thinning, but it thinned. You know how usually there's a pattern, like look at my head, like it sort of goes at the sides, right?
Yeah.
With him, it was like almost like the entire middle top of his head was like half bald, but there were still hairs there. They were just like few and far between. It was like so weird, but I don't know. He just had this really specific look to him. It was like kind of weird, but he's a character. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
So so he stood out to me as being kind of weird and wacky. But so the plot is the plot. We should talk about that. So we have another haunting, of course. And the movie actually opens much like the first one did, because the first one opened with the Annabelle case, and then that's like a prologue then to before the main plot. This one actually opens with an even more famous case, more famous because there's been movies made about it, and that's the Amityville case. And we're not going to talk about specifics. We'll save that for spoilers.
Yeah, I actually want to have there's a lot I want to say about that, but I'll save it.
Save it for this book. I want to talk about how they actually portray it, because I feel like that's in full spoiler mode. But we'll mention that they do that, and we'll mention the gist of the rest of the plot. Basically, the little girl in this family is the target of the haunting. Quite early on, she starts experiencing stuff, seeing stuff, although the rest of the family start to see things here or there as well. And eventually the Warrens are called in to come and see.
It gets a lot of media attention, and this actually happened in like real life too. I think it's one of the most like documented paranormal cases in history, but it starts getting so much attention, and like the families on TV, and like that, you know, basically kind of gets the attention of the church, who asks the Warrens to kind of go and check it out for them.
Yeah,
they have to be very careful. They don't want to, you know, they want to make sure everything's on the up and up before they get involved.
Yeah, which actually is one of the interesting themes of this movie, is that like there is a character who thinks the whole thing's a hoax, and they kind of play with that a little bit at times, and you're sort of left questioning, is some of this fake? Like what exactly is going on?
I actually really like that angle. I thought that was interesting.
I thought it was interesting, but I do think that they showed us too much for it to be believable.
Yeah, as a viewer, you know.
But by the time they get to the point where they show us some evidence that suggests it might be fake, by that point we've already seen so much shit that some of the characters haven't seen. We're like, no, it has to, unless they're tricking us and it's a cheap twist, and it's really cheap if they've tricked us like that. But from what we've seen, there has to be real stuff going on, because it's just impossible for it not to be. But it was interesting for that to come up, and
especially again, not to kind of keep talking about like the real life case or whatever, but that was like a big issue then, like that became of it. A lot of people thought that it was a hoax, and you know, there are kind of people arguing on both sides, and so I thought that was just a cool way to address it in the movie.
So that's a big thing, and one thing I really liked about this one is that I felt like I cared about the characters more than I did in the first movie. The family to a degree, but certainly the Warrens. Like I feel like they gave them a lot more character in this one.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of funny, the Warrens, they can get like really like there's a weird thing in this movie where there's so much like crazy dark shit happening, but like the Warrens are so like cheesy god love like kind of stuff, but it doesn't like bother me in the movie, you know, like
well, there's this weird thing, because I'm not a religious person. I'm an atheist, but in a movie where we have confirmed demons and ghosts, the idea that there is characters who are religious, like, and believe this. I mean, if you see one of them, then I guess you have to assume the other one is real too. So it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, like, also in the movie, they're not like, they don't really have like an agenda. Like they're not trying to.
They're not like beating you over the head with religion or anything like that. They're just.
Yeah. But there's just like a very like kind of like wholesome feeling to them, where it's like, you know, all this crazy stuff is happening, and then they're just like, you know what, we need to have a sing along. You know, like, but I don't know, I feel like, I don't know, they're very charming, and for some reason it doesn't bother me.
No, I thought they were good in this one. I cared more about the characters in general than I did in the first. I think
in terms of the family, I think we just get to spend a little more time with them than we do the family in the first one, because the family in the first one, it's like immediate, like move in, boom, like shit's starting to happen. Like this stuff happens like pretty fast, but I don't know, you still feel like you get a little more sense of the characters and stuff.
I felt like I knew more of these characters better, and they set up the idea there's a past, you know, because the dad's gone missing, and there's that aspect to it, and you see a little bit of the kids' lives at school at the start, and you get a bit more flavour to who they are outside of their house. Whereas the family in the first movie, you never actually see any of them outside of their house, except for maybe when the mum goes to see the Warrens. Like, like,
Yeah.
you never get a sense of what their lives actually are.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So no, that's cool. And I think obviously the big thing you need to talk about with a horror movie is it fun and scary, and is there atmosphere, and I think James Wan's actually very good at doing jump scares that don't feel cheap, and I think there's quite a few of them in this that are quite really, really good.
Yeah, this is actually a big thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I was talking to someone else about it over the weekend, who was kind of like, like, I don't really like him. Like, everything he does is just a jump scare. It's kind of boring. And, yes, there are jump scares in this movie, but, and we've talked before about not really liking jump scares, but I don't think that they're necessarily always a bad thing. I think if you're a talented enough director, you can use them pretty effectively.
Well,
and
here's the thing, Tim.
Yeah.
A jump scare in and of itself is not a bad thing. A jump scare is a musical instrument. In fact, no, here's one for you. You're supposed to be a comedian, Tim. You'll follow this analogy.
Okay.
A jump scare is the punchline to a joke. Directors often say that directing horror and directing comedy is actually very similar, because it's all about building up an audience expectation and then paying it off at the right moment to ease the tension.
That makes sense.
They're very similar in that sense. So the reason why most jump scares suck, it's almost like because they're just throwing punchlines at you without any setup.
Yeah.
And if you went to see a stand-up comedy show and all the guy did was tell you the end of all of his jokes, you wouldn't understand any of it. It'd just be shit. You'd be sitting there bored out of your mind.
Yeah, or if it's like the exact same punchline, all the time,
exactly,
and you can see it coming.
But that's the thing. That's the other thing about a joke. You go to see a comedian, they're all jokes. There's going to be a payoff. So you're building, you're waiting for where it's going to be. Is it going to be now? No, it's not going to be now. Is it going to be now? Horror is the same thing with jump scares. Something's going to come, and maybe it doesn't. Sometimes what's even scarier is when it doesn't give you the payoff. But and I feel like Wan does that quite well, where most of them feel earned, and most of them feel like they impact things properly.
Yeah, that's actually exactly how I felt like watching this movie, because there was more than a few times where something got me and I'd go, you know what, I can't even get mad at that, because it feels deserved. And
what's funny as well is there's almost two completely different camps of people when it comes to horror movies. I mean, there's actually more, but to put it broadly into two camps, you've got people who don't like jump scares at all and think they're the devil, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other people.
I think the person I was talking to, I think, was kind of like that.
And there's the other group of people who think if there's no jump scares, it's not a horror movie and nothing's happening. If you ask some people what they think about The Witch, they'll say nothing happened and it's not a horror movie, and they're like, well, no, because there's no jump scares, and So I think you get people on both sides of that line, and I think both are valid ways to make a horror movie. There's just, they can both be done well, they can both be done poorly. Jump scares I think are done poorly more often, but I think that's just because they're an easy trick to use if you're shit.
I think it's like anything. Like, if you're talented enough, you can make it work. Another way I kind of think about it too is we both really like comic books, and there aren't really many comic book characters that I don't like. It's more like the writer and the artist who's working on them. There's a lot of characters that normally I wouldn't read their book, but then if you get the right person on it, it's like, oh, well, yeah, they can probably do a really cool job or something interesting with them. And I think it's the same thing. Like, James Wan is a really talented director, so maybe he can take stuff that, in someone else's hands, probably could come off very cheap, very boring, uninteresting. But, since he's talented and, knows how to compose a scene, he can make stuff interesting and visually appealing and that sort of thing.
So, Conjuring 2 is very good. I'm basically wrapping up the spoiler-free section, because I'm not sure how much more we can get into without delving into the nitty-gritty of the plot. So
get right into the meat of it.
So that seems like it's going to be a long episode, actually, because we're already at the length we normally are when we're wrapping up the show. So So full spoilers then from this point on for The Conjuring 2, and given that it's, just came out, there's a chance you probably won't have seen it yet.
Right.
Come back and watch the rest, listen to the rest once you've seen the movie. But needless to say, we both liked it a lot. So check it out.
I see. If you even had a mild liking of the first one, I'd definitely check this out.
There you go. So, Conjuring 2, spoilers, reactions and reviews and things and thoughts and feelings and
Okay.
all those things.
All right, let's start right
Amityville.
with the opening.
Yeah, let's start with Amityville, because it's almost like a 5-10 minute short film at the start about Amityville horror.
Well, there's two reactions I had to this opening scene. The first one was, wow, this feels really insidious-y.
I agree with that sentiment. I thought of Insidious at one point, yeah.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I was kind of like a little like, I don't want to. I kind of like that these franchises are, separate. Like I don't want them to be like too much like carbon copies of the other, but I feel like they quickly got away from that kind of feel. And the other reaction I had was, man, I'm so pissed we had that really shitty Amityville reboot a few years ago, because I feel like if we didn't, then maybe there'd be a better chance of James Wan doing an Amityville remake, because I would really like to see that.
I never saw the Amityville remake, but I didn't think the original was that good either. So
yeah, it's been a while since I saw the original, but
it's not that good, Tim. Honestly.
Maybe we'll do it someday on the show. It's definitely been a while, but when I saw it was probably like high school or something. But I remember it, liking it. But again, like just because of now, like having it like in this universe, I don't know, just thought it would be cool if like James Wan did something with it.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen there because it's the prologue to this. They're not going to.
Right. Well, they did the prologue for the Annabelle.
Yeah, but then the Annabelle movie had absolutely fuck all to do with anything that. No, don't get me started on that movie. We start with Annabelle, and we have the whole like her getting into the her doing her psychic thing and try to see what happened here before. I mean, it did feel a little bit like Insidious when they go into the other place.
Yeah, that's what it like reminded me of.
But I mean, it wasn't the exact same thing, because she was actually just sort of looking at what happened in the past, I guess. What was interesting though is when she looked in the mirror and she was sort of like acting out what the guy in the beard did. I was like, yeah, that's what he looked like in the original movie. It almost feels like you could accept this is in the same continuity as the Amityville Horror, which, fun enough, was made in the early 70s. Soon after it happened, I guess. So. That was interesting, and I thought it was fun to do that. But the real thing that happened on the opening was they introduced the nun, the evil, creepy looking nun, and they did this really cool thing when she goes out in the basement as well, where there's like a mannequin or something with like a sheet over its head, and I thought there was someone there, and it was like, but actually, that's just kind of jumping ahead. But do you know what trick he pulls at least twice in this movie that I really liked? First time was in the bedroom with the girls. When you think you can see someone in the dark, but when the light goes on, it's actually just the face in the poster.
Oh yeah.
But it looks like there's someone standing there. And obviously, I think they've digitally made it look more like there's someone there when the light's off. But it's really effective and it works. And they did it again. Later on in the movie, I can't remember the exact moment now, but it definitely did it a second time.
Well, there's.
Oh, it's with the painting. It's with the painting, the nun painting, and the.
Yeah, that was actually probably. There's two scenes that I really, really, really liked, and that was one of them. I really, really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, when she sees the nun again, she goes into the office and the paint.
The shadow is moving across the, and that's something that he really likes. Is I like the like quietness of that scene, like just the shadow slowly like going across the room, and then like becoming part of the painting and stuff. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. I thought the design of that nun in general was pretty cool.
Yep.
I thought she looked really creepy. The whole teeth thing and looked proper evil.
Yeah, and I like that there was like a reason for it. Like once you find out what the like, at some point they say something about the demon like wanting to pervert the like religious figure or something like that. So
Yeah.
I like that there's also like a reason for it. It wasn't just like, hey, you know what would look creepy? You know, there's a point to it.
Yeah. One thing I don't understand is why it told, because we find out towards the end that the reason to beat it, the way you beat a demon is if you know its name, you can have power over it.
Yeah.
So why did the demon tell her
Yeah,
the name? I don't get it.
it was weird that it would just say it like I feel like they could have had an explanation that was just like um you know like she psychically could read its mind or like feel
Yeah.
it or something like that instead of just being like, oh, I asked it and then it told me. Or I don't know, or maybe it can tell, it has to tell you, but it has to do it in like a weird way. It can't like, she had to write it down when she was asleep or whatever.
Well,
Also, did you notice like throughout like the kids' rooms and stuff, they had its name was spelled out?
no, I didn't actually.
There was like one or two parts where I think like they might have just had like, like little kids have like little alphabet letters and stuff that they arrange. There's like once or twice I noticed they had something on the wall that said like, was it Valak was
Yeah,
its name?
Valak was the name. Yeah.
Yeah, like I noticed that once or twice on the wall, and for some reason it just stood out to me. I was like, "Oh, that's weird." I wonder, like, is that like a little like Easter egg or something? And then it ended up being the name in the end. But
Yeah. Uh, some cool moments that I really liked when they came over to, obviously Ed and Lorraine Warren come over to England, and when they're trying to test if like she's doing like a ventriloquist act, so they get her to hold them water in her mouth to talk, but
yeah, this is my second favorite scene.
but he's like,
Yeah,
oh no, I won't talk with you all staring at me, so they all turn
yeah,
around, and the camera stays in him, and the girls out of focus in the background as the demon starts talking, but it
yeah,
morphs into him when it's still out of focus, so it's like almost not even that noticeable at first,
yeah.
and then it morphs back at the end before. But that whole thing was just cool. Like it was just really
Yeah.
creepy and cool.
No, that was really great. And then I really I like again talking about like jump scares and stuff with him. There was like a lot of times when I would think he was gonna do something, and I think maybe around that scene I was kind of like expecting him to turn around and then he would just see the figure and it would lunge out at him or something. But he doesn't do anything like that. It's just like a very quiet, creepy scene where you see like this figure kind of morphing and then morphing back to the girl, and then and I always like that stuff too. I think that stuff is creepy when a ghost or a demon or whatever is like doing something behind your back that's like it's being creepy even though you can't see it. Like it's like, oh man, it's so creepy, you don't even care if we see what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It was a really cool moment. There's quite a lot of cool touches.
Yeah.
Because obviously it gets revealed later on that the ghost of this guy is actually more of a manifestation to trick them into thinking it's just the ghost of this guy who lived there.
Yeah,
And
I thought it was pretty interesting.
I kind of seen that twist. That actually kind of felt insidious to me as well. The idea that there was like multiple like fake ghosts to hide the fact that the one true demon was like actually up to no good. That felt very insidious, and I don't mind that though because I do think Insidious is better than Conjuring. Just going by the first movies, like I
Yeah.
like the Insidious more than the Conjuring because I feel like that has a much better mythology, and I like that this one kind of built in that a little bit because it interested these new ideas. And the second ghost we get at one point, if you can even call it a ghost, but the crooked man from
Oh yeah,
the kid's little light toy. I don't know what you even call that thing.
yeah.
The thing that spins, and
I don't even know if that's like a real thing.
I'm pretty sure it's a real thing. I don't think I made that up, but
Yeah. Although I did think it was interesting though that there is a Crooked Man is a character in a Hellboy story, which I thought was cool.
interesting.
But very different type of Crooked Man.
But he was
I like
cool
that.
too. He had a really cool sort of like skinny.
I'd
So
really like to go back and watch that first scene where he morphs from the dog because I don't think I really like got it at first. Like when I first watched it, I was like, wow, this CGI looks really weird. And then I think it took me like a few seconds to be like, oh, well, that's because he's trying to make it look like the figure from the toy.
Yeah.
But I'd kind of like to go back and see that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's one little weird nitpick. See, you know how at the end when like they think it's a scam because they've got footage of the girl like sort of faking the like all the stuff happening,
Yeah.
and they go on the train and he does that whole thing where he gets the two recordings and plays them together so they hear the full message. I did sort of like roll my eyes a little bit because I'm like, yeah, he just rewound those and they were perfectly in sync to do that. Like, you know, like you'd have to sit and like it would take ages to sit and line them up, especially when you've like a tape recorders. You don't have a computer to do it on.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things where it's like, if it was a shittier movie, I feel like that would stand out a lot more and like, you know, make you angrier. But at this point, it's like you're kind of so invested in the movie, you're just like, all right, well, whatever. They got to get to, you know, where they need to go. So
yeah, I mean, that's a nitpick, but it was just something that stood out to me. Like, yeah, bullshit. You don't just magically make them in sync like that.
I did like the whole the hoax angle. I thought was like interesting, and again, I like they kind of address those real life hoax concerns and incorporate it into the movie, and actually had kind of like a plot narrative for it. It's like, oh, like, you know, she was doing that to drive them away, and then like, you know, Warren wasn't sure because, you know, she couldn't sense anything in the house, but it's because this demon was masking ghost or whatever. So I thought that was just kind of interesting little thing.
Yeah, no, it was good.
And I was also super happy that nothing bad happened to the dog. I was kind of afraid that he was a goner, but
well, the dog in the first movie died, so I mean,
I know, yeah. Why?
There's a possibility.
We get it, you know. Just there's no reason for these animals to have to keep dying.
Other cool moments when Ed's down in the basement sort of area with the washing machine and he's in the water and the thing's creeping up behind him, and then there's a jump scare with the woman instead of him.
Yeah.
Like, it grabs her instead. That was pretty cool. Nice little jump scare.
Yeah.
Quite a lot like that.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good stuff throughout.
I felt a lot more because I feel like after the first one, all I really remembered after a while was the clapping scenes. Whereas with this one, I feel like there was a lot more notable, really cool, like scary moments where they came up with a really cool idea about the shadow on the wall, the crooked man, the, you know, even the scene where the girl somehow teleports inside the locked room.
Oh yeah.
You know, like just all those moments. Like there was a lot of really cool setups and like how do we deal with this? And one thing I liked as well, and this is something that the first one kind of did too, is we didn't have to go through the whole people not believing. I mean, obviously we had the hoax angle, but I mean, just in terms of the family itself inside the house, the mum, like, she's like this is bollocks, what are you doing? But then as soon as she says that, the dresser moves on its own, and it's like, all right, fuck, okay, right, I'm on board with this. There's something in the house, because that was something that was going to. It's usually something that just happens all the time in these movies, and I like when we get past that. And they even made some comedy out of it, like when the two police people, the policeman and the policewoman come by, and like they're trying to check things out, and then the chair moves on its own, and they just sort of immediately leave and go, oh, well, fail a report, and that'll be it. You know, this is a bit out of our jurisdiction, I'm afraid. I do apologise. Like, so there was humour as well. It was funny at times.
Yeah. No, I definitely like that as well. And that's a big nitpick I have too. Like, you know, if we're watching a horror movie, we're pretty invested in the, you know, possibility of these things existing. We don't need to go through like 45 minutes of someone, you know, being all credulous and stuff. And yeah, I like the first time the mom kind of pops in and is like, oh, what's going on? Like the dresser like immediately like tries to ram her through the door, and it's kind of like, okay, so yeah, we're not even gonna spend time being like,
I like that because I feel like the ghost or the demon or whatever in most of these movies, sometimes it feels like they're deliberately trying to like hide it to everyone except the one person they're fucking with. And I like that in this one, the ghost almost immediately like, oh fuck everything, I'm just going to mess with everyone. Like everyone's going to feel my goddamn wrath, and that's just the way it's going to be. And some of the other cool things as well. I like the whole using the skipping rope to tie herself to the bed.
Yeah.
That was a nice little thing. That was a nice little idea to stop her from sleepwalking.
Yeah. I actually quite liked the. It might not resonate as much with you, but I liked the scene where she stayed home from school and she's watching the TV and kept flipping the channels. Just because I like I've had kind of like a weird experience with something similar like that happened to me when I was a kid. But we can go into that later.
Okay.
Off air.
Okay. Yeah, that was the other cool thing, is they had that whole chair in the corner where the guy died. By the way, if I found a guy died in a chair, I'd immediately get rid of the chair. That was just me though. I mean, I don't know about anyone else. That chair would be getting to fuck.
Well, the lady kept it so she could one day die in it as well.
How was a weird tidbit at the end with the text? Yeah, the mum stayed there for all her life and then died in that very same chair. I'm like, right, what about the kids? What are the kids all doing? Tell me about them. They should all still be alive. In fact, the kids in all this are all a bit younger than my mother, so yeah, they'll all be middle-aged right now.
Wow. One thing I was going to ask you real quick, I don't know if you would have any insights into this, but when she was watching TV, do you know what she was watching?
No, not a clue.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like a famous British TV show I didn't know about.
To be honest, it probably isn't. It's probably just one that I don't recognise, and other British people are going to condemn me for not knowing what it was, but no, nothing.
I was just curious.
Nothing sprung to mind.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, actually watching her use that giant remote control for the TV and just the general 70s of it all, it made me really glad that I was born when I was, because fuck not having the internet and fuck not having HD TV.
Yeah.
Fuck it hard. Want no part of it. You mentioned the sing song bit earlier.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the things I liked. I liked how the Warrens felt like they became really friendly with the kids and the mum, and because he was like helping around the house doing stuff, and I liked how they both told the main daughter the same story about well, it wasn't even the same story, it was just like they each told her about how he had this weird experience when he was a kid and no one believed him, and she's always had this sort of like psychic connection with the paranormal, she can see things and whatever, and no one believed, and like it both ended with I finally met someone who believed me. And what did you do? Oh, I married them. And like I like we got both sides of that at different points.
It's just so, it just feels so weird because like so much of this movie, you know, is spent kind of being like creeped out and like this weird spooky imagery, but then there's a few moments like that and the scene where they're talking about bullies and how you have to, these ghosts are like bullies, you have to stand up for one another. And it was like
that scene, that was a really sweet reason to have the family move back, because the kids were all staying at someone else's house. And they all came back, and I actually kind of like that reason, that like part of like, because this was even kind of set up in the last movie and kind of and like just ghost stories in general, but when they're trying to possess someone or whatever, they always try and wear them down. So the idea that like the family sticking together and try to support her actually makes her stronger against it, was like, that's actually kind of sweet.
And I feel like it's just weird because I feel like if you just heard about it, you would be like, oh, come on, man, that's kind of cheesy. But then when you're actually watching it, it's like, this is strangely heartwarming. Like in a movie where like, you know, like so all this fucked up stuff is happening, it's like there are these like weird little tidbits of like, oh, that's kind of nice.
Joe likes as well. Obviously the daughters, like the Warren's daughter's grown up a little bit. She's only got a small part in the movie, but you do see her. And at the end when they finally go back, you know, this is the first time again you see the room with all the things in it, and he puts even though I have to admit, see when he takes the you know, the little spinning thing where the crooked man came from, I have to admit, I was like, how does he really need to store that? I feel like that was just like, that was like tangential to what was going on. It didn't feel like that was like the core cause of what was, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't feel as relevant as the mirror thing in the first one felt, but whatever. So he puts it up, and you can see Annabelle in the background, you get all that, and it sort of like, it focuses on the thing again, as if it's going to do the same sort of like not jump scare thing. But then the last scene of the movie actually isn't like a jump scare or like a maybe jump scare or a creepy moment. The last scene of the movie is them putting on Elvis and dancing.
Yeah.
And it ends in a really happy note, which even when everyone survives, I usually expect the ending of a horror movie to be quite somber.
Oh yeah,
at the very least, if not downright depressing. Whereas this was just like, nah, we're in love.
Yeah, and it strangely works.
Yeah, it did.
I don't know.
It was odd in that sense, but
Yeah.
And you know, of course, it leaves it open for more movies.
One thing I was going to ask you is if you thought there was room for a third one, if you'd want to see another one, or
I mean, we could never get another one, and I think this would be a nice ending to the story. But at the same time, I have no problem with having another one. One thing I would say though is I don't feel like they need to be I mean, I know they love saying at the start it's based on a true story, but you know what? If someone wants to just write an original story with them, go for it. Like, who the fuck cares? Come on.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is like again, I've been reading up on them, but like they have a couple of other like famous cases, but they've all like already been turned into movies. Like, of course, there's the Amityville one, and then I mean, maybe they have more. I'm just not aware. But the only other one I can think of that is like a really big, famous case. They turned into that shitty movie, Haunting in Connecticut.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Which sucks because it's actually a really interesting case. I actually really like the, again quote, but real life story for that. But the movie was so awful.
I wonder how that works with like rights and stuff. Like, could they just do that anyway? Like, I don't know.
That'd be weird if you're a real person and Hollywood just has the rights to you.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know. But
because that's another thing too. I wonder if because I think Elizabeth Warren, I think, has been a consultant on both movies. So I wonder if they do a third one, do they kind of have to go to her and be like, hey,
I don't think they have to. I think, well, it depends. I mean, I don't know what the contracts are like or anything like that, but I would imagine they have the rights to, like, the name The Conjuring at the very least. I mean, can they put characters called Ed and Lorraine Warren in it without her consent now? I don't know. Like, it's weird. Again, it depends on how the contract's written. Like, does it say they own the rights to these fictionalized versions, or like, is it an issue? I don't know. That said, though, would she care that much if they're paying her?
True.
Like, yeah, we're going to write an original story about X haunting or whatever. Because I almost feel like, again, to be different, because I like this more than the first one, but I do have to acknowledge there was a couple of times where I'm like, oh, right, one of the kids sleepwalks again, or, like, they did enough to differentiate it, but I feel like if they do a third one, it has to be not a straight haunting. Like, it has to have a different sort of twist to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what they would do. Also, I don't know how much I'd want to see another one if James Wan isn't involved.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to really see it if it's not him.
Because at this point, he's built up enough goodwill with me that I'd be pretty much down for, whatever he'd want to do next.
That said, I mean, we kind of maybe thought that got into Insidious 3, and then Insidious 3 ended up in good
That's
fun.
true.
So
that's true.
Who knows? Who knows? So who knows where they go from here? I feel like they could almost just do spin-offs that aren't them. And obviously I know they did Annabelle and it was terrible, but you've got this idea of this room full of all these items, like, what if you cut to present day and you follow like a fictionalized version of the daughter growing up who is either still doing this, or maybe like someone broke into the house and all the items got like sold off to people, and like, you can almost do like a Warehouse 13, Friday the 13th TV show, kind of premise where she has to track them all down. I'm like, oh, this, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
That could be interesting, yeah.
That could even just be a TV show, let's be honest. Conjuring TV show, it's their daughter tracking things down in present day.
Check it out.
I don't know. I'm just, there's potential for all this stuff, but ultimately, though, the movie on its own is just really entertaining and really solid. So,
yeah.
Are we good for ratings? Is there anything else you want to?
One other little thing I kind of wanted to mention, not really necessarily too much to do with the movie, but
Oh,
like before it came out, I saw they did some type of like hidden prank show involved with the movie,
all
where
right.
basically they had like this lady was like hiring babysitters to come like look after her daughter, and it was in Spanish, so I wasn't sure exactly what they were saying, but looks like they were just hiring someone, and they go into like this mansion, they go to this room, and there's this girl there that's possessed, and then they leave them alone and like lock the door, and then like the girl turns and she's all possessed, and then all the crosses flip upside down, and then like there's a cabinet that like flies at them, and then the lady like jumps up on the wall, and then the demonic nun comes out of a mirror. And I just thought it was really interesting because it's like it seems like, I don't know, like prank shows I usually think are just like 30 seconds, like, ha, I gotcha kind of thing. This was like 5 minutes of like really fucking scaring someone.
Yeah, if they had a heart attack and died, they'd be in some legal
Right. And
trouble.
like, yeah, they had like some like older people on it that I was like, Jesus, this lady like definitely could have died. And it's like, again, if you think something like that is like kind of weird, but then like in 15 seconds someone's like, hey, gotcha, look, you're on TV, you're like, oh my god, my heart was beating so fast. But this is like, after 1 or 2 minutes of seeing this thing straight, you must like, your whole world must be upside down. I don't know. I just thought that was
I don't know.
very strange.
Oh, I remember something else I really like. See the scene towards the end when Ed gets into the house through the basement and he
Yeah.
gets steam in his eyes, so he can't see
Oh,
properly.
yeah.
I really like that because we get his like POV and like everything's all like kind of blurry, and that was good. It was nice and just added a bit of tension.
Yeah.
Just one around. But no ratings. Timothy, Timberoo.
I really liked it. I think I gave the first one an 8.
Oh,
Um,
you're rating out biscuits out of 10. Out of 10 biscuits.
biscuits.
Biscuits. Biscuits, Mom, can I have some biscuits, please? Biscuit!
Don't eat too much of them. You'll get thirsty and wake up in the middle of the night.
Cut to shot of empty plate and him
Yeah.
getting. By the way, actually, if I've got to nitpick one more thing, actually, about the biscuits, is that line, don't eat too many, you'll get thirsty during the night. We get a shot of him like before he wakes up, sort of like, look with his mouth, just like.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this really a thing? Do people get thirsty like while they're asleep if they ate something dry before going? Like, really?
Well, I mean, there have been plenty of times that I've like, woken up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water, but it's never been like, oh man, I shouldn't have ate those cookies right before bed.
Like,
Yeah.
does anything you eat have like the only effect like my eating or drinking has on me when I'm asleep is if I maybe need to pee in the middle of the night. That can happen
Right,
if
yeah.
I drink a lot and I need to pee in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I have just that line. Don't eat too many or you'll wake up thirsty. I thought was really weird, and then it happens. I'm like, this is weird. No one does this. I don't even think I've ever woke up wanting a drink. Honestly,
Oh, it's happened to me a lot.
no, that does happen. I know people that do that, but I don't think I ever. Like, I feel like, I'll wake up when I wake up, and then one of the first things I'll do is I'll go and get a drink and eat something because it's breakfast. But like I never wake up in the middle of the night going, oh man, I really need it. I never have a drink. See, if I have something to drink, it wakes me up, and then that's me up. I guess is my point.
Okay.
I'll be on a proper tangent about this. I do apologise. Tim, how many biscuits out of 10?
Yeah, I think I give it like a solid 8.5. Yeah, no, really good. Enjoyed it quite a bit.
Now I am debating here between an 8 and an 8.5. So I'll agree with you, or I'm just underscoring slightly, but I think I agree with you. I think 8.5 biscuits out of 10 is exactly what I'd give it.
Oh.
Good stuff. Really good stuff. No, I really enjoy it. I was actually kind of surprised. Like halfway through when I realised how much I was enjoying it, I was kind of surprised and like, no, this is actually really good. And
Yeah, it was, like I kind of said earlier, like I didn't necessarily think it was going to be bad, but I didn't think I would like overly like. I thought it was just, to be honest, I didn't think the trailer was that great. Like the trailer was just very like, okay, it looks like.
I actually really liked the trailer, not because I thought it looked great, but I liked that it had everything.
Oh, I definitely like that. Yeah,
Because the trailer was just a couple of abstract shots, and then that one conversation in the garden on the swings. You know, when she's like, "It wants me to kill," you know, and then the cross is turning upside down, and that was it. Like, it didn't spoil anything. Like, I felt like when this movie was playing out, like I had no idea what this is about or where it's going.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll say that was really
beyond, you know, like, okay, it's like a ghost trying to possess a kid, so they're going to try and, like, you know, obviously, I just know from like general horror knowledge, like I can guess where some things are going, but I didn't know anything beyond that. To the point where, you know, we're getting scenes at the start and they're at school, you know, and I'm like, huh, I wasn't expecting this.
No, I definitely like that aspect of it, but yeah, it's just like when I first saw it, like, you're not really thinking about that much. Just like, oh, you know, it wasn't, a ton that made me like, oh man, this is gonna be great. But yeah, very pleasantly surprised. I don't know if it helped that the last movies we watched were like, besides the first Conjuring, it was like darkness and the other side of the door. So that probably helps bump it up a little bit in your mind.
Actually, you know what? I just thought what I want from the third one. I don't care what's true and what's not true.
Okay.
Third Conjuring, set in Japan.
I would love that. That'd be dope.
I want them to go to Japan and deal with things in Japan. Deal with a long-haired ghost in Japan. That's what I want. I've decided it.
I'd be down for that.
We've set up this thing where the second one they went to a different country. I want each sequel to be a different country. I want the third one in Japan, and give me a fourth one in like
space.
No, Germany. Have like a ghost Nazi.
Oh, okay, interesting.
All right, do that.
Save space for the fifth one.
Yeah, I'm thinking save space for like 10. Like, there's a lot more possibilities on Earth.
The Conjuring X.
Conjuring X. When Uber nun gets me with the robotic nun clothes. Oh dear. Okay. I think we've actually wrapped up the Conjuring 2, Timmy.
Alright.
I think that's us. Alright. Now, Timothy will have done a drawing. Now, last week I said I'd put them where I mentioned them. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm simply going to... I did this as well last week, but because I mentioned it, I also put them in the video at this point. Instead, you'll find it at the end as the music's playing. So it's a nice little treat at the end after you've put up with us promoting things for like a minute. So, speaking of promoting things, Tim, where can people find you?
Like you don't know. All my social media stuff is at Tim Vargulish. That's that's your Twitters, your Tumblrs, your Instagrams, and then you can like my comic book stuff at facebook.com/goatmancomics.
Cool. You can find me on Twitter and other social media places at Wibble89. You can also find me in a bunch of other shows here in the network, such as 1.21 Gigawatts, which is the regular movie stuff, all the TV stuff on Almost Cancelled, and of course we have a new DC Comics podcast called Comics from the Multiverse, which we do every weekend, talking about all that week's DC books. So check all that out. You can get them on YouTube and iTunes and all that stuff. Let us know what you thought of the movie, which you can do on Twitter at mailed_fuzz, or email us mailedfuzz@gmail.com. If you're on YouTube, just let us know in the comments below. Did you like Conjuring 2? Did you like it more than the first one? So on. Let us know. Yeah, this has been Screams After Midnight. We have spoken about the Conjuring 2. Keep watching the scary movies, guys. We will see you next time.